Alright guys, so in the previous session basically we saw how we can basically do complex validation using validate rule. Of course, we plugged it in into the flow action. Whenever user tries to submit the form, those validation will be triggered. But that is all okay. Let's talk about some basic validation that we might want to do on the individual fields and show the feedback right away to the user. So for example, if someone is entering a phone number that is less than 10 character or mobile number, that should immediately, we can immediately flag that out. Someone is entering a DOB, and that DOB is actually in the future, right? We can immediately tell them that, okay, sorry, this is not the right value. This DOB must be in the past, right? So whenever we are doing whenever we need basically to address the requirements like that, what option do we have? When the user enters, see, you can validate that in the using validate rule, that just like we mentioned earlier, right? You can still check that if the length of this is less than 10 character, then yeah, that's a problem. But that will be done only when you submit it. Sometimes we want to feed the response to the user right away, especially if this is a big form. We don't want user to be basically searching here and there where the issue is. Well, for that kind of thing, in Pega, we have something called edit validate. Edit validate rule. Now this, the name itself says edit. When you are editing it, at that point of time, this validation will be triggered as soon as you're done with editing. Edit validate rule is something that we can use there. Remember, this is a Java code. This is entirely Java. And if from that Java code, if you return false, that means the validation failed. Okay. So edit validate is a Java code which, if you return from that Java code false, will be treated as failed validation. That's number one. Second, the edit validate is applied on the property. It is applied on the property, which means that if I'm applying that on the phone number, whenever I'm using the phone number property from this class, the customer that we have used here, whenever we are ever using this phone number, wherever place, wherever section, the same validation will automatically apply there. So it's a global for that property. The validate rule you specified on a flow action. This is going to check only on that flow action. The same property, same data, if you're using in somewhere some other places, those validation will not be effective. But here, the edit validate is going to stick with the property. Whenever you are leveraging that property, that validation will be triggered. Okay, right. So edit validate is something that we apply on the property. It gets executed as soon as you are done editing. The validation will be triggered. The Java, see, you are going to run a Java code. So how will you find the value of the current field, current property? Well, there's a keyword. The keyword is the value. This is the keyword to refer to the value of the property. This is the keyword to refer the value of the property. All right. With this much info in, let's try to do the validation. Remember, this is a section that we have embedded from the customer class, and the property is also in the customer class. So I'm going to open this section from the work first. These two are same section actually, so this is fine. I can click on this to open this section, and this is the section, okay, in the customer class, and I want to apply that validation on phone number, for example. Okay, so I will have to open the phone property in the customer class. and that's where I will apply that validation. The validation is available on the advanced tab of the phone number, and this is basically use validate. This is the edit validate. There are a lot of out of the box validation. For example, is boolean, is future date, is integer, is letter, is argent, right? This is there is a lot of, you can open one of these to see how those codes are written, right? This is Java code. See, just the Java code. The value is how you refer the current value. Okay. So for the phone number, we are going to say is valid phone. I'm going to create a new validate rule. Create and open. So if the value is whatever value you will insert in this property at the runtime. If the value dot is a Java code, so you should know the Java basically for this much. If the value, the dot the length means the length of the value is less than 10, then return false. Means validation failed. Otherwise, return true.
If it is 11, then
I mean, you can
we
have
have like
two.
not
You can
equals
have,
to 10,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can
not equals
have
to 10.
not equal to 10. Okay, right. So
Or we can restrict the field length to 10 and then we can have a less than also.
you
That also
can
should
you
work.
can restrict the field length basically as well, um, but basically that only works for the text type of property. The phone number is text, it will work here if you just provide maximum length here, okay, to 10 character. But it's not always the case, right? I mean, yeah, that is one way of restricting it, but this is more valid way. Okay.
Mahesh, the validation basically happens when you define it as, for example, date or phone itself, right?
No,
How is that different from this one?
it is going to work. That's a different thing. Those are control validation. Okay.
Because whatever code you wrote now, even if I enter something like, plus 91 followed by 10 digits, it does say that, that phone number is not valid. So,
You will see. I'm just giving you an example. Okay.
oh, okay.
You
Yeah, so
can
if you want
take
more
that out.
enhanced, yeah.
Yeah, you can take that out. You can trim everything, right? You can remove the white spaces. Then I mean, those are the logic of how to implement. That's a Java code. I'm just here basically showing you how you can write basically a Java code, and then you can use it as a edit validate rule. Okay.
Yeah, that's just a kind of a basic validation. For more
Exactly.
enhanced validation, you have to come here
Yeah,
anyway.
that's
Yeah.
where your Java experience and Java knowledge comes into the place. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I mean, you do not need to know Java, you just need to know how to Google it. Right. Okay. So this is edit validate. Good. Why it's not showing up here? It is showing up here. Is valid phone. Okay. Okay, that's problem. Yeah. Phone number. Good. Now, whenever you will enter, let me create a new case. Now this is because we are using the same property for old or new both. Doesn't really matter what property you use. Sorry, 1 second. Should have triggered immediately. Did I not save it? Use validate. Yes. Future validate is valid. Saying it if the value length. I should ideally trim this as well. So if there are leading or 10 not equal to 10, then return false, else return true. We create a new case. Phone number, I've used it. Customer detail, I'll select. I mean, this should automatically take. Don't have to select that again. Let me create a new case. I can use the existing one, that will also work because we're using the same property. See? Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, yeah, this was accepted, but it did not reflect right away. No, yes. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. So it's actually going on a database and we're not sending it back right away. So Java will run on the on the server side only, right? So whenever we are changing, let me post the value. Okay. Now thread thread 2, 9, 8, 7. CID. Oh, sorry. Actually, there is a problem, different problem. We create a new case. So hence, I'm going to say new coming up. To refresh this. Yes. Okay, good. 9, 8, 7. Good. Another. So basically, remember, let's look at how things are working here. Okay, we rendered a section. All right, we rendered a section. Now the length of that, when you render, that's okay. When you enter any value, the value gets submitted to the clipboard only when you submit button it, right? Alternatively, we can, whenever on change, we will have to send the value on the clipboard. Why do I need to send the value on the clipboard? Because the validation that I have written here in the phone number, that is a Java code. Java code does not run on the client side. It runs on the server side. So until your value is posted on the server, the validation will not trigger. Okay, and when the validation has triggered, you need to show that result of that validation on the screen. So you got to refresh the section. So do two things. Whenever you are changing the value here, you post the value, okay, on the change, you post the value and refresh the section to see the message. So on the change, post the value to the server and then refresh this section. Okay, so it will always reflect. Now if I go back to the old record C1, that's 001, this is right, incorrect, valid. save it, it will be updated on the database. So that's the basically the understanding that we wanted to build here is what exactly is edit validate rule. Well, edit validate rule is to validate one field individually using Java code, right? You will have to put that edit validate on the property that you want to adhere to the validation of, okay? And that property will be associated with that edit validate rule, which is a Java code. You will basically get the value of that edit validate property, right, on which you are putting the edit validate basically. So you will get the value after, sorry, using the keyword the value. Okay, that's how you get the current value of the property in the Java code. Once you got the value, then of course it is up to you how well you know the Java and what is your requirement. You can basically build any logic there in the Java. The key here is if your validation passes, you return true. If your validation fails, you return false. As far as message goes, this message can be customized. Is the old case? Yeah. The message can be customized through field values, which we will talk about going forward when we talk about the field values. Right at the moment, this message doesn't look good. Right, invalid value is specified for phone number. Value doesn't adhere to the validate is valid input. Valid phone. Pega does not know this. I mean, sorry, user will not know what you have here is valid phone, and your code name should never be presented. Maybe we should be showing the message that okay, yeah, the mobile number or phone number cannot be greater or less than 10 character, something like that. So how do we do that? Well, that's something that we do using field values in Pega, which is text replacement only. And that we will cover towards the end of the training when we talk about localization and other stuff. All right. The same message you will see by default on the header as well for the user's visibility that okay, phone number, there's a problem with that value. You could apply the same thing on the email as well. Okay. You could say that okay, when someone is entering the email, your organization may have the requirement that I mean, yeah, email basic structure is going to be checked through the control itself. If you do not put dot at the rate email id at the rate, it will be problem from the control itself will give you an error. But what if you want to validate that okay, it should not start with numeric value, it should have at least this many character after the at the rate, and all those are complex you can use regular expression to validate in Java, but those kind of complex validation are also done using edit validate. Okay, so that's basically the edit validate. The next session we will talk about something called edit input. We will keep this one shorter. Edit input is used to auto translate the value that the user enters. So for example, if I'm entering here Mahesh, you might want to just auto cap it, right? If I'm entering a phone number as 919560 something something something, you might want to put a space between 91 and plus here, right? If you want to auto edit the value that user has provided, we use edit input rule. That's something we will cover next. This demo was only for the edit validate, which basically we learned that this is nothing but a Java code which has to be applied on the property itself. It's a Java code, so it doesn't run on the server client side, it runs on the server side. In the Java code, you write your logic that you want to run against the value of the property. The value can be found using the keyword the value, and if the validation passes from that Java code, you need to return true. If the validation fails, you need to return false. If it is false, there will be error. If it is true, that will be considered as okay. So that's where we will conclude the edit validate.